start like 2 seconds after we sit down.
You've been on Instagram lately? Ever since that one Mamdani guy won the mayoral election in New York, a lot of people have been talking about socialist policies and stuff. And they're saying like this is one of the first steps towards America becoming a communist country. Isn't that crazy to you?
I don't know. I don't think it is. Communism really isn't as horrible as people make it out to be. And to be honest, dude, capitalism isn't that great either.
What are you talking about?
So try and explain capitalism and why it's wonderful to me, and I'll rebut you.
Yeah, so let's start with, I guess, basics of capitalism. According to Adam Smith, it's all about self-interest. When the individual acts out of self-interest, everyone benefits, whole society.
Huh. Why is that?
It's because self-interest creates competition, and when there's competition, there's people are encouraged to work harder. There's innovation. The best product gets put out, and when they're able to put out the best product, and they're able to put out the best product because there's division of labor. Workers are able to specialize in one specific task. They're able to be better at that one task.
Huh. Can you give an example to me of how this works?
Yeah, so imagine a baker. He owns a bakery. Why is he going to make the best bread he can? Not because he just loves baking most of the time, but because he wants people to choose his bread over everyone else's bread when they go grocery shopping. He's giving, because of capitalism, the baker is going to give a higher quality product for us.
Okay, so Adam Smith, the capitalism guy, he also advocated for a free market with minimal government interference, right?
Yeah, so laissez-faire, that's what he called it, and yeah.
Okay, so if the market is free, what's stopping that baker from just overcharging customers from the bread?
Still competition. If the baker's overcharging, I'm going to go to the bakery next door that's not overcharging. Yeah.
Okay, so you're assuming that there's always going to be another baker, or that one baker won't just buy out the other bakeries.
Yeah, he talked about, monopolies. He talked about that. That's why he said minimal government influence intervention, not none. Look at U.S. We have tons of laws, Sherman Act, Clayton Act, that protect competition and make sure monopolies don't originate.
Okay. Still, I don't know. I think that there's clearly class divisions and wealth inequality. So Marx, he says that this is not a flaw of capitalism. It's directly built into the system. Capitalism puts money exclusively into the hands of the wealthy, or the bourgeoisie, as Marx would say. The failure of capitalism is inevitable.
How is the failure inevitable?
Okay, so do you know about the materialist theory of history?
No. Explain it.
Okay, so basically, the materialist theory of history basically says that economic conditions shape life more than actual ideas. So the way economic systems are structured determines what people consider to be normal.
So as long as capitalism is the structure in place, inequality is also going to exist.
Yeah, and everyone's going to accept it as normal.
Why would people just accept that?
Because they've already been alienated by capitalism, and they're alienated from their labor. They're alienated from their product, and they are alienated from their potential. So everything is a survival tactic. You never own what you create, and your growth ultimately ends up being limited.
Okay, so they accept it because they don't see the exploitation at all. They don't see what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So Marx calls it false consciousness, right? People are too busy being distracted by opiates, like the party that they're going to on the weekend, or the Sunday night football game coming up, or even religion, really. They don't recognize that their labor is being exploited because they use these opiates to try and cope with it.
So what has to happen for people to start seeing that they're being exploited?
I'm glad you asked that. So that's actually what Marx called class consciousness. When they finally realize their work is being exploited, that their struggles are a part of an unfair system, once the masses gain class consciousness, they'll ultimately overthrow capitalism.
So they'll turn to communism?
Yeah, so that's the end goal, but it is important that there is a transition period. So think about how many times in history a shitty totalitarian government has formed just because of mass panic.
Yeah. Okay, but what's going to happen during this transition period? Is there just no government?
No. Okay, so that's also a good point you brought up. So socialism, a new form of government will step in and redistribute the wealth and the resources to help acclimate people to life without private property. So eventually, class division will break down, and we'll get to a point where we implement communism.
So you just explained why he didn't agree with capitalism, though, and what he thought the process is to implement communism, but I still don't think I really understand what communism is.
Okay, yeah, so in a communist society, there's no private property, no markets, and no classes, right? Everything is centrally planned by the government. Essentially, nobody really would own anything. Instead, the government would own everything and distribute everything equally to everyone.
Okay. I just feel like that feels like a lot of power to give the government. It also feels really hopeful to assume that the authoritarianism doesn't come from this. And it also just feels like it sacrifices a lot of what makes everyone unique, a lot of individuality. It just feels like a robotic society to me. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I definitely see that argument. Really, both have their flaws. If I have to make sacrifices in order to assure less people suffer, then I'm game.
Okay. So, I guess capitalism does create innovation and choice, but it's not that good. It creates so much inequality and a lot of suffering. And communism does a great job to fix that, but it can feel like you're losing a lot of freedom, I guess.
Right. Neither is perfect, Stone, but there's bullshit in every theory. However, I believe that both theorists, Adams and Marx, make solid points. The point of communism is an amazing philosophy on paper, but once the populace gets added in and everything starts, it crumbles down to complete nothingness. I mean, look at the Soviet Union and Communist China. They didn't have that transition period, so that's why they failed. No one has actually taken communism and applied it how Marx said to. So that's why it fails. They didn't last very long compared to other societies. Capitalism has actually proven that it can work in society, not just on paper. So modern day, most countries aim for a mix of a market with some safety nets implemented by government regulation, right? The debate, though, is super relevant as we battle inequality, automation, and the ever so growing class gap between the rich and the poor.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, thanks for telling me about that.
Yeah, of course, bro. I'll see you after class.
See you.